The following events are a true account of the calculated betrayal I endured and the cold justice that followed. I stood in the freezing rain outside the Peninsula Hotel in Chicago, watching my wife of 12 years wrap her legs around a man who was intiming me through the blurred glass of a second-story lounge. The woman I had built a kingdom with. The woman I had kissed goodbye only 4 hours earlier as she supposedly headed to a high-stakes corporate retreat, was currently laughing into the neck of a man I recognized as Julian Vane, her firm's most aggressive rival. The sight didn't just break my heart, it fundamentally rewired my DNA, turning a decade of devotion into a singular, icy resolve for retribution. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from, what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. My name is Mark, and for a long time, I believed I was the luckiest man in Illinois. I'm a senior partner at a structural engineering firm. I build things, bridges, skyscrapers, foundations that are meant to withstand the weight of the world. I thought I had built my marriage on the same bedrock. Alina was a high-flying marketing executive with a smile that could sell ice to an Alaskan and a mind that was always 3 steps ahead of everyone else. Or so I thought. We lived in a sprawling brownstone in Lincoln Park, drove European cars, and spent our summers in Door County. To the outside world, we were the gold standard. The cracks started appearing subtly, like stress fractures in a concrete pillar. It was the way she started taking her phone into the bathroom, the way she suddenly needed a security passcode on her iPad because of confidential client data and the new expensive lingerie that I never saw her wear for me. She became colder, her touch feeling like an obligation rather than a desire. When I questioned her, she used her marketing brilliance to gaslight me, spinning a narrative where I was insecure, overworked, and suffocating her career growth. She was so good at it that I actually started to believe I was the problem. I went to therapy, I bought her flowers, I tried harder, then came the call that exposed the rot. It was a Tuesday evening, around 8 p.m. Alina was at the office finishing a campaign for a national retailer. I was at home, sitting in my study, when her spare iPhone, an old model she thought was dead and buried in a kitchen junk drawer, suddenly chimed. It was synced to her iCloud. A message popped up on the lock screen from a contact saved only as the client. It read, "The suite is booked at the Peninsula, room 412. I can't wait to feel you again, Alina. Leave the husband at home where he belongs." My blood turned to liquid nitrogen. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. Simply picked up my keys, drove through the congested traffic of Michigan Avenue, and parked across from the hotel. I watched her arrive in an Uber. I watched him meet her at the entrance. Julian Vane, a man known for his predatory business tactics and his reputation for collecting the wives of his competitors. The humiliation was a physical weight, pressing down on my chest as I sat in my car, the wipers rhythmically slapping against the windshield. I realized then that my entire life was a choreographed lie. Alina wasn't just having an affair. She was leaking my firm's proprietary structural bids to Julian's firm in exchange for her own career advancement in his bed. They weren't just betraying my heart, they were dismantling my professional life. I spent the next 3 weeks acting like the perfect, oblivious husband. It was the hardest performance of my life. I had to kiss her suit-tasting lips, listen to her talk about her exhausting days, and sleep beside her while my skin crawled. But I wasn't just playing house, I was working. I hired a private investigator named Elias, a former CPD detective who looked like he ate gravel for breakfast. I gave him full access to our finances and told him to dig. What he found was a labyrinth of deception. Lena had been funneling money from our joint brokerage account into an offshore shell company for 18 months. She was planning to leave me, but not before she bled me dry. She and Julian had a plan to wait until my firm's biggest contract, the O'Hare expansion project, was finalized, then she would file for divorce, claim half of my liquidated assets, and join Julian's firm as a senior partner, bringing my trade secrets with her. "They think you're a builder," Mark Elias told me as we sat in a dingy diner on Western Avenue, looking at photos of Alina and Julian in a heated embrace at a restaurant in Wacker Drive. "They think you only know how to put things together. They do unrealize that a man who knows how a building stands also knows exactly where to place the charges to bring it down." I smiled for the first time in a month. It wasn't a happy smile. I began my counteroffensive. First, I met with the best divorce litigator in Chicago, a woman named Sarah who specialized in high-conflict asset protection. I showed her the evidence of Elena's financial embezzlement. In Illinois, dissipation of marital assets is a serious legal offense. Every dollar she moved to that shell company was a nail in her coffin. But legal victory wasn't enough. I wanted social and professional annihilation. I knew that Elena's pride was her greatest asset. She cared about her image more than her own soul. She was scheduled to be the keynote speaker at the Chicago Women in Business Gala at the Drake Hotel, a massive event attended by the city's elite, including the board members of my firm and hers. The week before the gala, I made my move. I accidentally left a folder of top-secret project blueprints on my home office desk. These were fake. I had designed them with intentional, catastrophic structural flaws that would not be visible to a marketing mind like Elena S., but would be a laughingstock to any real engineer. As I expected, the PI's hidden cameras caught her photographing every page and sending them to Julian. Then, I contacted the board of Julian's firm anonymously, providing them with evidence that Julian was using company funds to pay for the consulting fees of his mistress, my wife, and that the intel she was providing was fraudulent. I waited until the night of the gala to pull the final cord. The Drake Hotel was shimmering with gold, leaf, and ego. Elena looked stunning in a deep red silk dress, moving through the crowd like she owned the air they breathed. Julian was there too, smug and polished, standing by her side like a victory trophy. I walked in late, dressed in my finest tuxedo, playing the role of the supportive spouse. I even shook Julian's hand. I felt the sweat on his palm. He knew something was off, but his arrogance wouldn't let him see the trap. When it was time for Elena's keynote, she took the stage to thunderous applause. She started her speech about integrity in leadership. It was sickening. Halfway through her presentation, the large projector screen behind her, which was supposed to show her marketing deck, flickered and changed. Instead of charts and graphs, a video began to play. It was high-definition footage from the Pi, Elena and Julian in the Peninsula Suite. Their voices crystal clear thanks to the directional microphones Elias had used. The room went silent. You could hear a pin drop on the thick carpet. Then, the screen transitioned to a side-by-side comparison of the bank transfers she had made from our joint accounts to her offshore shell company, followed by the confidential photos she had taken of my fake blueprints. The silence broke into a low, horrified murmur. Elena froze on stage, the blood draining from her face until she looked like a marble statue of her own failure. She turned to look at the screen, her mouth hanging open. I stood in the center of the room, held my champagne glass up to her, and took a slow, deliberate sip. Julian tried to bolt for the exit, but he was met by two uniformed officers. I had filed a formal complaint regarding the embezzlement and the theft of trade secrets earlier that afternoon. Because the blueprints involved municipal infrastructure, the authorities took it very, very seriously. The aftermath was a scorched earth campaign. Julian was fired within 48 hours, his reputation in the city decimated. His firm sued him for the misuse of funds. Elena's firm fired her for gross moral turpitude and breach of contract. But the legal system was even less kind. During the divorce proceedings, my lawyer used the evidence of her embezzlement to ensure she walked away with nothing. The shell company funds were frozen and returned to me, because she had intentionally tried to sabotage my business with the fake blueprints. Her claims to any part of my firm were tossed out of court. She went from a Lincoln Park socialite to living in a cramped one-bedroom apartment in a part of the city she used to scoff at, working an entry-level telemarketing job just to pay her mounting legal fees. A few months later, I ran into her near Daly Plaza. She looked older, the arrogance replaced by a hollow, frantic desperation. She tried to stop me, her eyes welling with tears. "Mark, please," she whispered, her hand trembling as she reached for my sleeve. "I made a mistake. Julian manipulated me. I still love you. Can we just talk?" I looked at her, and for the first time, I felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no pain. Just the cold satisfaction of a job well done, Lena. I said, my voice as flat as a desert floor. "I'm a structural engineer. I know when a foundation is too rotten to save. I don't talk to ruins. I just clear the site for something better." I walked away, leaving her standing in the shadow of the skyscrapers I helped build, a ghost in the city that used to be hers. She thought she could tear down my life brick by brick, never realizing I was the one who held the blueprints to her destruction. The end.